it kind of feels like the Raiders roster is set as far as the free agency period. Like, obviously, we have our draft, but again, no first or second round pick. So you're probably not going to get a big splashy starter out of the gate. Maybe, probably not, but maybe. We've spent a ton of our cap until June 1st, and we still got Derek Carr to pay. So it doesn't feel, again, the cap, we're not capologists. There's a ton of movement, but to our best knowledge, it doesn't seem like there's a ton of money to pick up a giant. Certainly not another Davante Adams or Chandler Jones or something like that.
Well, I mean, Carr's cap hit is only going to go down because if they do an extension, it's going to rework so there's more money available this year as opposed to less money available. So his cap hit's only going to go down.
Well, I'm wondering because they backloaded Max's contract, they backloaded Chandler's contract. So maybe that was their plan to semi-front load Derek to even. You may be right. You may be right.
Or
that's kind of how the big contracts are now.
Yeah, all I'm saying is I'm not saying that it will go down, but they're not going to eat up more of the cap than he's already taking right now. If I think when they do get him signed to an extension, either the cap hit's going to stay the same this year, a la like a Colton Miller when he signed his extension, or they're going to relieve some of the cap hit this year. And there's a couple guys out there that might look a little good in silver and black.
Okay, so it feels like the roster is more or less set, and this is kind of what it looks like more or less. I'm just basically going off of ESPN's lineup, right? Just generally,
zoom in on that.
What this looks like. So this is kind of what the offense looks like, right? Sounds about right. Right. Yeah. Leatherwood, maybe, who knows with that. That's basically it, right? I mean, those are starting wide receivers, running back, quarterback, tight end, fullback, probably the line, right? Feels like that's the offense. Defense, they're doing the base 4-3. It's not going to be a 4-3, but just for the sake of discussion. Some new faces, right? Some differences here. I'm curious if Diablo is going to be our starter. What they're going to do with Crosby in like a 3-4. Is he going to be a down lineman? Is he going to be off, hand out of the dirt? Talk about that. Trayvon Mullen's probably going to be the starter over Phillips, most likely. But that's essentially our roster, more or less. Draft is coming up, and unless, there could be some big things in the draft. But is this a lineup that you're comfortable going into a draft where we don't have a first or second round pick in? Or are you saying there's a giant hole and we have to address it in free agency?
Well, there's two ways to answer that. Normally, going into any normal draft, I would not feel very comfortable because normally you don't see the kind of depth that you're going to see in receiver, offensive line, and in the secondary. Those are very deep positions in this draft, and we can get very good players in the third and fourth round that any other year, average out the last few years, would be a second round grade. So I feel comfortable in our position right now that we're going to be able to add. We'll have at least 2 rookie starters. I'm calling them. We'll have at least 2 rookie starters.
2 rookie starters.
Yeah. Maybe both on the offensive line. Who knows? Because I'm looking at all this depth that's falling, and there's depth at other positions, but when let's say, for example, like interior defensive lineman, right? There's a lot of depth, but there's like an elite 5, and then there's like 5 or 6 more that are really good, and then there's a huge drop off. So those guys are going to get drafted, like maybe overly drafted, if that's what a need is on your team. Because that if you don't get one of these top 6, 7, 8 guys, there's a huge drop off for the other guys, and you might as well just not even pick a guy, just sign a 1-year guy. So there's a couple of position groups like that, like even like edge rushers. There's a lot of edge rushers in this draft, but just not as many as, let's say, offensive line or secondary, right? So if you want to get your edge rusher, you better get them early, because if you might be sitting there with
Even if you need a guard,
yeah,
you can get one later.
You don't get one later because you're dancing around with no seat, right? And then there's
Yeah.
no chair there. So that's why I think a lot of these offensive linemen are going to be pushed back, and there is quality offensive linemen that are going to be available later in the draft, in the mid rounds. And if it plans out the way it looks like in a lot of these mock drafts that I've been seeing, we can get some pretty good guys with our third round pick. Even if we trade back to get more picks in the third round, we can get a steal in the third round.
To answer the question to answer my own question that I asked myself, am I happy with this roster going into the draft? The answer is a giant yes. And not that we can't improve, not that there aren't weak links, not that I wouldn't love to have Gilmore or Matthew or, all these other guys that have been kind of rumored to come over. It's just that one, I think the Raiders are done making giant splashes in free agency. They'll pick up randoms, but I think they're done making big splashes. I don't think we're gonna get a new starter, at least a week one starter out of the free agency crew right now. Which I love, because now we can do what every coach and GM says they do, but they never do. Just draft the best player available, as opposed to need. Like when we went to the draft last season, it was like, we desperately need a tackle. We desperately need a safety. We knew we were going 1-2 in those two positions, right? We knew we were going either safety first or tackle first, and the next one was safety or tackle. We knew that going in. Desperate need. We're going to have 2 rookies starting for us. We ended up having more, right? But we knew going into the draft that was the case. Now it's like, I would be shocked if any rookies we picked up started. And that's awesome. That's great. Like, to be able to just be like, just draft the best guy available. We don't have gaping holes. Let's get depth, or guys that we can develop, or guys. Hopefully they challenge for starting positions. That'd be great. But there's no gaping hole that we have to draft our way out of, which is an amazing feeling for me.
Yeah, we already have some depth. You saw the roster there, but yeah, double D's, baby. We like double D's. Depth and development out of the draft. That's 3 D's, triple D's. Whoo! Quadruple D's. Draft day, depth and development. Ooh.
Should we call that just an E? It's like an E-bra? There's no quadruple D. So
listen, bro, E-bra. I'm making it right now. Anyone has triple D's, come on over and I'll write another D on your shit.
Those are the type of developments that you have to have a strap. You try to go strapless with triple D's.
Yeah, you can't do the spaghetti strap with that shit.
Impossible.
You gotta get that big mama strap, the big Walmart bra, fucking grandma
with the cushion, because they're so heavy that a thin strap would just cut into your clavicle.
It's almost like a backpack looking thing, but for the front.
Yeah, over the shoulder boulder holders.
Oh, Jesus.
That's that's what we're looking for, right? That's what we're looking for. Draft development, great.
Draft aid, depth and development.
And it's kind of nice that the positions that are some of the best for this draft are kind of the guys we want development for, right? Linemen. So we got young linemen, but so you think, okay, what do you think? Who do you think is going to be the 5 starting linemen? So obviously Colton Miller for sure, Andre James for sure. So you think Simpson, either Good or Leatherwood or Parker, whatever combination of those 3, because Parker got paid like a starter. He got paid $3 million. So it kind of feels like there's only 2 positions that you could really fight for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Simpson turned a corner at the end of the year last year. Mm-hmm. I think he was doing really well towards the end of the year. I would say if I had to pick right now, gun to my head, it would be Miller, Simpson, James, Leatherwood, Parker, like it was at the end of last year. Mm-hmm. I think Good, like you said before, Good is a better as a swing.
Love him as a swing, yeah.
And I honestly think that,
he's the oldest one of the 5. So if you want, if the plan is I'm guessing, I'm kind of, I don't have any inside information, but my feel is McDaniels and Ziegler are let's just go young, have them develop together, and have them be a cohesive unit for seasons to come. Mm-hmm. Even if there's some guys that aren't great, I think the sum of the sum is more than the parts, or whatever that saying is.
The sum is greater than the
sum is, yeah, exactly. The total is greater than the sum of the parts. So
the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah. So you can have Good be that great swing guy and just try to force Leatherwood into being something. Try to force Parker into being something. Try to make Simpson into something. Just kind of just get them young and let them develop together.
Yeah, Josh McDaniels said it in the owners' meetings when there was the AFC day. Everyone gets a clean slate. Mm-hmm. He had an interview where he spoke about Cleveland Farrell specifically, but it sounded like that was to the entire roster. Now, a clean slate can be a good thing, where maybe if you are not as productive as your draft position or as expectations might have set for you, it's a clean slate, gets you a chance to make a new impression. But a clean slate also means for, let's say, an Alex Leatherwood, who was a first-round pick, who was forced into the lineup because he was a high draft pick. This new crew did not draft you. They don't give a shit where you were drafted. If you can't play, you will not play regardless of your draft position. So it can be good and bad depending on which situation is.
Yeah, the idea of clean slate in the draft doesn't matter. I love, but it's also kind of like whatever you did last season should count too, right? It's like, wow, Brandon Parker's looked amazing in practice. He's our guy. It's like, well, you gotta watch some film. Like that's gotta kind of affect your decision a little bit, right? But
well, the thing is, it's like the draft. You can go and you watch these guys running around in shorts and tights and spandex all you want. That just confirms what you see in game film. Mm-hmm. Now, what you see in game film from Brandon Parker last year, okay, these are some deficiencies that we're looking at. Let's work on it in practice. Okay, how does he, implement that coaching? Yeah. And if he looks a lot better and he's working and he's correcting a lot of those mistakes that he was making on tape, then you could say, okay, we maybe have a guy that's turning the corner.
I like our roster. I really do.
I do.
Congratulations for making it all the way to the end of our video. If you want Darren Waller to catch 20 touchdown passes next season and for Max Crosby to have 30 sacks, go ahead and subscribe and click the next video.